Hey gang, Kevin here, Life22. And I'm exhausted. I am exhausted. You ever just not wake up because you're just so tired? Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going around, but it knocked me on my butt. Um, so sorry we didn't have a show for the last 2 days. But here we're back. As you can see, I'm still a little groggy, but back and at it. So what I've got for you folks today is a brief update, and then we might delve into Tuesday night's council meeting. I know a lot of you were waiting for that one, and we still probably should review the council meeting from 2 weeks ago. Do a side by side. I don't like this camera view. I'll have to change it. I listened to a viewer, and he insisted that it was the better thing to do. But now, I've got my eyes turned down to you. So, regardless, so we got Alderman Sonia McCall for Ward 4. She's the incumbent. She's coming on tomorrow evening. And they had the council meeting on Tuesday. The budget just passed. I'm trying to think. Oh, and then we have a special guest for Saturday morning, which is yours truly's birthday. And I know all of you guys sitting up like little kids on Christmas morning being like, when is, oh boy, it's my friend Kevin's birthday. And you all go nuts over it, right? So I figured I would share my treat with you guys by having a guest on the show and give you some insightful information. So with that said, I'm trying to recall the council meeting. It wasn't horribly eventful. I enjoyed for surviving a council meeting, especially if you know the public comment is going to be super long, changing and then there's things that you need to have done, like pass the budget and things like that before all the aldermen disappear out of town, because I believe you need a supermajority, which I believe is 5 of the 7 members. You can't just have a simple majority, which is 4 of the 7 members. And I mean, everyone was present there that night, but you never know when someone's not going to be present. I believe, I think it was mentioned that 2 or 3 of them are going on vacation, the next day, and then there's going to be some flowing into this week. I believe this was the last available time we could catch Alderman McCall before she went on vacation, so it was one of those, hey, let's get it in before you leave kind of thing. So it is what it is. But so I love how they brought that up, and they brought up the kind of the PR to kind of explain to the masses what the Common Council's position is on this. And I think this is a good topic to stick on, I suppose, that there is no free speech. There is free speech at a council meeting. It is open to the public, but it is so that you can watch and observe governments. You can watch your alderman see oh, wow, he's so, he or she is so strong and talks about their points. So, so if ever, as you can tell, I'm still a little out of it. Speak with veracity or compassion, or maybe they're curled up in the corner because public speaking just intimidates them. They're really good on paper, but in public they're just they curl up. There's all those different types of things that you get to see by going to the meetings. You get to see elected officials as a whole, how your city government is run. It just gives you transparency. That in and of itself is what people are looking for. But for people to sit there and be like, wow, it's anti-free speech to not have comment at the council meeting, it's no, because you can speak freely anywhere. You can hold a protest uptown. There's all these different things that you can do that are free speech. that it does not have to be incorporated into a council meeting. The school board had rescinded it for a while, and then they went offline with it, and then they brought it back. And really, they could have just abolished it, and a lot of people talked about that. I mean, the Common Council could do the same thing. They could abolish public comment, because you can always write your alderman. You can always call, text, show up in person to meet your alderman, to the mayor's office, whoever. You can do all those things. You don't have to have a public comment. So I like, there's no right to public comment. It is just an offering that the Common Council offers to the public. It interrupts their meeting, because their meeting is to get city business done. Your comments, is a lot of people's comments, they have to do with city business, but they're not official city business. They're just like recommendations, comments, like criticisms, appreciations, just a bunch of little things. So, oh man. Ugh. So with that said, they then went into they passed the budget, which a lot of people are going to argue that the budget is a truck. They're going to argue that a lot of people. Wow. It is just a brain fog morning, folks. A lot of people are complaining that they passed a 4% or 6% increase on taxes, and like I've been saying, and I even brought it up during the Amy Sherburne interview, was that if you have 6%, and I got some more firmer numbers, it's closer to 50% of the general fund budget, right? So they say $29 million budget. Well, you're including water and sewer. Like, water and sewer bring in their own revenue. You're not allowed to murk up the finances. So water and sewer bring in their own revenue, and they pay their own expenses, like independent of the general fund. And independent of each other too. So like, you can't bring in a sewer money into the sewer bill and pay for water expenses with it, and vice versa. They share billing. That's about it. And since they don't put a flow meter on your poop pipe leaving your house, they go off a pretty logical assumption that every dollar that you're buying from the city is a dollar worth of sewage that you're disposing of. So that's kind of like the logic there. And so they'll charge you for how many gallons of water you consume to determine what your sewage usage is. And some of you have probably make the complaint that, like, well, I fill up my pool once a year. How come I don't get a 50% discount? Because my pool water, if anything, gets drained into my yard and blah, blah, blah. Well, you could pay to have a very expensive impeller put in your sewage line, and then you won't complain anymore, because then you'll have an accurate reading. But if you're not gonna pay to have that done, like, who should? Because if you make the city do it, your water and sewer bills are going to go up even higher, and then you're going to have an accurate, like, oh, my sewer bill went down a lot. Well, yeah, but you know what? There's still a cost of doing business, and there's still overhead to running that facility, regardless of how many turds go to them. So, like any business, you're going to have to, yeah, okay, well, instead of just whatever water and sewer are per like, all of a sudden the price per gallon will go up for sewer. You'll be paying the same amount of money. It's just you'll be charged more per gallon because you're giving them less gallons. They have to be able to cover costs. So, but anyways, the 6.5% or 6% increase on 50. So what you're left with is $20 million left of the general fund, which is like your police, your fire, your parks, your city building, your clerks, your auditors, assessors, your local the community development office, your DPW office, your streets division, your mechanics, all that stuff is covered under the general fund. And if 50% of your revenue is brought in the form of property taxes on a $19 million budget, that means that, like, I was talking to somebody the other day. If you just need to bring in, I keep using the number 1.5%. I guess I've been corrected. It's closer to 2.5% for inflation. So if you have to raise taxes by 2.5%, well, I'm going to misspeak here, but just to show you where everybody else's misunderstanding comes from, you have to raise the cost of doing business across the board by 2.5% to keep up with inflation. The issue with inflation is that the 2.5%, if you're only raising property taxes by 2.5%, you're not really getting anything done, because you're only getting half of it done, because you're only raising half of your allotted budgetary amount. So if you're raising your whole budget by 2.5%, you actually have a 5%, like you have a 2% increase across the board. But if you're only using half of that money to offset the 2.5% on average for inflation, because then you're going to be like, well, Kevin, what about the other 50%? Good point, except for the fact that if you raise sales tax revenue, there's no true way to raise sales tax revenue. You can, and I don't even know if this is possible, but like the city's share could increase. I think it's like 1% or 0.5% of whatever the 8% sales tax is. Maybe we're 1.5%. But you could say, hey, we're going to go up another 0.5% on sales tax. Everybody's going to be pissed that buys stuff. You're going to have less people buying stuff here, and it'll end up equaling out. Or you try to do some promotion to try to get more people to buy stuff, which is dumb. You're not going to be able to, if you have a way of getting more people to buy stuff to increase your sales tax revenue, then you'd be a very wealthy city, because like that's a hard nut to try to crack. A lot of people in industry can't do that. Like you have people that are in the free markets that are trying to break that nut every day. How do I get more people to buy my product? The city of Olean is just going to miraculously convince more people to buy shit to pay sales tax. So it's hard to mess with those numbers. That's just the market. People are going to buy with upturns in the economy, downturns in the economy. Some things stay relatively flat. Sometimes if you boost your population, you may have an influx. So I guess cracking that nut might be a better way, but it's going to be way better than trying to attempt to raise sales tax and watch it just go down, because people are going to be like, you're going to have a bunch of people that just are less likely to buy because it's costing them more, or you're going to have people that are in protest and they're going to go to Pennsylvania to buy so they don't have to pay New York State sales tax. And there's those different attitudes. So there's no real way for you to crack the nut on trying to increase the other 50%. So you're stuck with this 50% of property taxes, which is real easy, because what are they going to do? Foreclose on? You can't go astronomical with it. People will lose their minds. But you also, people aren't going to sell their homes. People are still going to buy groceries at an 8.5% sales tax. They're not going to buy. They're not going anywhere at a 5% increase. And that's the minimum you're going to have to charge, because if you have to compensate for 2.5% inflation, and you only have 50% of the budget to revenue of the budget to raise to bring up that 2.5%, unless you have other different fees, like they raise permit fees a couple dollars and ambulatory fees and this and that, but the big one on the 50%, the other 50% is that sales tax. You're not really going to touch it. You can try to make up for it. So, but since they raise ambulance fees and stuff, it is offset a little bit. To know that number would be nice to see, but it's just tough. It's tough. If you need to raise to compensate for just a minimum of 2.5%, you got to think there was years that it was stagnant and didn't really it was 1%, 0.5%, 0%, but then there was like last year or the year before, it was 8%, 9%. It was crazy numbers, and so now that's going to overall change the average, and maybe that's why I've been updated on the 2.5% from some people that I've been talking with, but. The 2.5%, if you have to compensate for that, that's just even having to raise half of the budget by 2.5%. There's still a raise to the property taxes by 2.5%. That is still an income, it's still over the tax cap. You have to pass a resolution to break the tax cap to get it done, and then you have 50% of your budget that's not compensating for maybe it's not 50%. Maybe it's more like 60. Maybe you have a 2% missing there for your estimated inflation, because you also don't know what inflation is going to be till the end of the year. You would hope that it just disappears and it's only 1% or 0.5%, but that's not really the case. And you're not banking for it this year. You're banking for it for all future years as well. So if the new average is 2.5%, even though it might come in at 2% this year, you still have to compensate it, because next year you're going to need that extra 0.5% to cover it. So to cover the 3% next year, right? So, and at a 3%, that means 6% property tax increase, roughly. So it's just a lot to comprehend. It's makes your head spin, but that's what I mean. Government's like running a business. It is not the same as, and people need to understand that. People used to flip out the school tax or the property or the water bill. Oh, you're supposed to be net neutral. You're supposed to be revenue neutral. You're not supposed to shoot for revenue. It's like, yes, but you still have to hit the mark. You can't go under. You can't go into the loss category. You're not a charity, right? Like, you're still running a business, really. I mean, you can't, if you just consistently lose money every year, then all of a sudden when people are like, why are you raising taxes 60%? Oh, because we didn't do anything. We dropped the ball 10 years ago, and we're finally catching up with it by this. And so, which was a hard egg to swallow. I mean, I sat in on some of those meetings when I was not an alderman. I was just a lowly landlord, and I would come to those meetings and listen to all the landlords complain about water bills and stuff. And it's like, now I get it. Now I see. You got to make the tough decisions. People are going to have outcries. But you got to right the ship. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to, 1 to 17 people complain, so we're going to bankrupt the water sewer fund. We're going to bankrupt this fund just to make sure those people don't have to pay an extra dollar. No, like, you got to just do your job and make sure that the ship, like, so you don't have this family, die of thirst because this group of people doesn't want to pay an extra penny for their water, and then all of a sudden, well, we can't provide you with anything. You know what I mean? Like, that's the issue with going bankrupt. Like, then the service is not available. You have a diner or a restaurant, like, I really like that place, but I wish they wouldn't raise their prices. It's like, well, yeah, but they have to raise their prices unless you don't want that diner to exist. That's kind of the end game. But we're running short on time here, folks. I know I was going to delve more into the comments of the meeting, but I guess we'll do that on a different day, maybe tomorrow. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Life22.